It's March 2nd. Does that mean it's too late to start doing a phenology wheel? Guess what? It is not too late. It's season 5 of the Nature Journal show, and I am Marley Pfeiffer. Oops. You can follow me on patreon.com/Marley Pfeiffer, your favorite struggling artist and educator. All right, let's get back to the phenology wheel, and I am going to show you how to get started, even if you think it's too late. It's a time of year where there's a lot of cool stuff happening, and it is not too late to start a phenology wheel. Even if it's March, even if it's April, let's talk about it. It's going to depend on what your intentions are with your phenology wheel, but there's a variety of ways you can collect the information. I have a whole video about the logistical aspect of doing a phenology wheel. I think I have another one in here. But what we're going to do right now is talk about some practical ways to make it possible, even if you think it's too late. So we're in March right now for me. I'm not going to get into all of these. These are in the other video. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some stuff for making circles. And if you're a perfectionist like me, this video is going to be really good for you because I'm going to use an approach that at least helps me and my perfectionism not get out of control. So the supplies you're going to need a couple things probably from your kitchen that are big circles. Depending on the size of paper you have, you're going to want to try to find something. If you're doing a phenology wheel for the whole year, you're probably going to want to do one that uses as much of your page as possible. Circles are the most awkward shape to fit on a sketchbook page, interestingly. So you have to reflect a little bit on why phenology wheels are a circle, and that's something I did in that other video. So here's the smallest circle object I got, and here is like the biggest. So right now, to help me get over my perfectionism, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start tracing some circles. And this is on a piece of scrap paper. So get a pencil, an erasable pencil if you're worried about it, and use a scrap piece of paper just to start making marks on the page. If you're a perfectionist, or for most creative people, the blank page is the hardest part. So once you start getting some stuff down, you'll get over that initial fear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test a couple things out. That's another way to not get your perfectionism triggered, is to have a variety of things that you're working on at the same time, so you're not really committed completely to any of them. Okay, so the other thing that we do need, I should have mentioned this right at the beginning, is we do need a straight edge of some sort. We're not going to measure these and divide them perfectly. A protractor could be good as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of estimate, and what we need to do is we need to, if we're going to do the months, we need to divide this into 12. So we can think about a couple different ways to do that and just start getting marks on the page here. So I'm just going to eyeball this actually. So that gives me 4. And to get 12, we have to divide it a different way. But I'm just trying to get some marks on the page so I'm not feeling too perfectionist here. And then I can start thinking about this visually. Sometimes if you're a perfectionist, measuring can be a mental block, and trying to get things perfect in the angles of your circle could be what ruins your phenology wheel. So it is too late in the year to start making a phenology wheel if you unleash that inner perfectionist that is also sort of a saboteur. So one thing that I like to do is to do a sort of and this is a strategy you can use in drawing in general when you just need to eyeball how to divide a space. You can, what we'll do is I'll just take the circle, and I'm not even going to use the straight edge. I'm going to just draw right on here and just divide my circle once in half there. Okay, so now now what I'm going to do is I know that 12, that 3 goes into 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 3 on each side of this division. So for a total of 6 slices of pie. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this left half, and I'm just going to kind of imagine where the thirds would be, right? And just sort of guess. And 1, 2, 3, that looks about right. And so this is the kind of thing that I think that if you practice doing this, eyeballing it, you get better at it. And for drawing, this is really important. And you can like measure everything and be very precise. But for some people, I think that's a mental block actually, and will prevent them from doing it at all. And I also think that by practicing eyeballing measurements like this and then sort of refining them, you'll get better with time. And this is something that shows up in your drawing a lot, especially if you're trying to draw quickly. So I'm just going to work with this one here. Now that I have 6, I'm going to divide each of these, right? So let's divide this one, that one. Wait, am I missing one? Maybe not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so you can see the sizes are kind of janky, but I'll just adjust them a little bit and roll with it. Okay, so these are just my practice ones, right? So now I just sort of broke things in. This was a scrap piece of paper. See, this paper is actually damaged. This was one of those defective journals I got from Stillman and Byrne, where the paper was messed up on the inside. Very, very disappointing. It's not just this cover material that I hate. They have had a few of these bad ones. At least I've had one. So here is my final book. This is going to be for my final page. That was just a warm up, right? To help us get around our perfectionism. I have this sheet here. This is in 62. And take that cord away. And wobbly, 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 wobbly. And so what I'm planning to do, and this is how I think you can be really successful with a phenology wheel and a lot more flexible, is I'm going to rip this page out, and I'm going to start with it in this journal, in the back of this journal. Oh, I guess I don't need to rip it out for that. But I'm going to start with it in this journal, and then since I'm probably going to finish this sketchbook before the year is over, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it out and stick it into the back of my next journal. Does that make sense? So what it is it's actually like an insert, and I can carry it from one journal to the next. And that was one of the blocks for me for doing a phenology wheel, is a lot of people do it on a separate piece of paper, like a fancy, drawing paper or watercolor paper or whatever. And they take it, it's just a separate piece of paper that they have to go back to over the course of a year. And for me, I travel a lot, and I'm always working in sketchbooks, but the sketchbooks fill up before I don't have the same sketchbook for a whole year. So if I have an insert page that I can move from one journal to the next as I start new journals, then it'll be like a really cool way to keep that phenology wheel with me and hopefully actually complete one, which I've never really done one for the year before. So it's a little bit harder sometimes on the last page, the way the binding works, at least with the Stillman and Burn ones, to reinsert it. But usually it's pretty easy and surprisingly durable. Like I've taken journals that had these loose back sheet inserts in them into the field and never had issues, even like climbing in trees and all kinds of crazy stuff. So sometimes it falls out a little bit, but so far I haven't had any issues in the field. Okay, so where's my idea page? Here's my idea page. So I'm gonna copy this one, but I'm gonna do a bigger one because I might do, let's see if we can fit one big one and one small one. We do usually want some space for, circles are just such an inefficient shape on rectangular surfaces. Let's try this here. I don't know what I'm going to use the small circle for, but it could be interesting. Okay, got my big circle. Now I'll just do the small circle down here for fun. Circles are a very weird shape, actually. Okay, so now I know I'm going to have, some text here. So maybe I'll have, let me just block in my page a little bit so we can think about layout. Do I have a good drawing tool for this? I'll just use pencil, that's fine. So I'm going to draw this line up here. Oops. This is going to be like text just to give me an idea from layout perspective. I'll probably need some text in here. Probably. Unless I put it all in the circle, which is probably what I'm going to have to do anyways. And then I'm going to have, obviously this is a good place for text down here. And I'll make it like this. So for me, as a recovering perfectionist, what I find is that if I make my first draft loose, very, very loose, and don't even worry, like old me would have freaked out about this line right here. Look at how bad that line is. It's all over the place. But I don't want to spend 10. I know that if I spend 10 minutes on that, that's 10 minutes that I don't spend on actually like finishing this and getting this closer to like a finished stage. And then sometimes the motivation is over before you complete the project or even get it to like a decent stage. So I find this is a way that I can kind of evade that. So I'm not even going to measure anything on this whole thing. I'm going to freehand the whole thing this time. Last time I did it, I did try to be a little bit more precise, but this is sort of an experiment. So now I need to make each of these sides into 3. Okay, so where am I at? 1, 2. Oh shoot! I started dividing. Oh yeah, I divided that one. Divide this one. Some people are probably freaking out looking at me doing this. It's so like so imprecise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So imprecise and so finished. And also this is pencil, so like I could you know, I have a little bit of flexibility here. Oops. That should have been smaller, but okay. This one's a little bit small. Yeah, let's make that one a little bit bigger. Okay. All right, so what I can do is now I can somehow put the names for the months here if I'm going to do this by months, which I think makes sense. I'm actually going to try to, so my goal for this, and maybe I should write this up here at the top, my goal for this is to actually use this thing for what it's good at, which is showing you what you saw at different times through this circle. Circle is a cycle. That's the only time a circle makes sense. Most of the time, a circle is not something you want to use in a diagram or on your page. But this is an actual cycle, right? It's not like a linear story. It goes around, and the only reason why it goes around because there's that circle in the sky, the sun, which goes around the earth in circles. Just kidding. So that means that there's a implicit cycle to it that is actually meaningful. So like when you come to get to December and towards the end of December, it starts getting similar to the beginning of January, and then it all starts all over again. And so I'm going to put the names of each month at the top of these. And for the months that have already passed so far, I'm going to use photo references or memory, and I'm not going to freak out that I'm 2 months behind. The other thing that I could do, oh, maybe this is what I should do. I could just leave those two blank until next year, right? So I could start anywhere. It's a circle. You can start anywhere, right? Okay, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to make little blocks here for where the name of the month is going to go. I don't like how much space of the circle that's taking up, but I have no other option because over here it's going to be a minimum amount of space. So I'm going to make this similar sized block. Get ready for your to be turning your sketchbook around in circles. That's another reason why this diagram shape is very illogical in a lot of ways. And one of them is that to read some of these months, you have to turn it. So it's very different from most of the text that we receive. Circles don't really fit in the sort of industrial rectangular way of organizing things. And books, and a lot of, because of books, I guess, and printing, a lot of art has been, even without us thinking about it, like, why are paintings inside of rectangles? You know, that's not objective at all. It's the cause of a certain technological limitation or sort of technological side effect. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use ink to write those in, and then I can erase the, well, maybe I'll erase the line underneath a little bit first. Okay, now I'm going to use ink. Pretty juicy one. It's not my favorite, but this is these Pentel sign pens. There's better, actually, you know what? I've been having some issues with that not being completely water resistant, and I want to do watercolor over this. So I'm going to use the Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen. This is the hard tip. They have two different tip hardnesses, or maybe this is the soft tip. So this is pigment ink. It says water-based, but it is you can do watercolor over it. There's a cool phenology event happening right now in my mom's backyard, which is the apricot flowers are starting to open. The pomegranate's starting to leaf out January, February, March, April. Whoops. Boom. Okay, that was easy. Look at that. We did most of the hard stuff. There might be a way to do something in the circle. The circle ends up being sort of waste space. I wonder if there's a way to do something creative in there. Might be able to use like the smaller. Yeah, you might even be able to use that whole space for something different, because that's the hard part about these pie slices is fitting things in here. Fitting drawings into the pie slice shape is challenging. So it's like March 2nd. I think what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to go out and draw some of those blossoms here. Okay, now I'm starting to think about how I can represent an entire month in one of these pie slices. And I'm going to show you one of the benefits that we did these initial sketches is I can test things over here now without being completely committed to them. So for example, I could go to this one right here. Okay, so January, February, March. How could I divide one of these? Maybe I could split the month into like the beginning, the first half, and the second half. That could potentially work on each of these. I'm not going to draw that line per se. These are still not that much bigger. So that line would kind of be about here. Another potential way to do it would be to divide these this way and make the beginning part here and in there. I could do that. Whenever you create this kind of a scheme, it can get in the way of what your actual subject matter are. So for example, if in January I have long skinny things would fit better here in this schema. So that's not really ideal to create too much structure in advance. So that's one of the things you have to find a balance with the phenology wheel. So I should probably at this point reiterate what my main goal was and just write it down on the actual page. My main goal is to actually use this and fill it. Over the course of a year. That's a really big goal by itself if you think about it. So let's be careful not to give ourselves too many other implicit goals, unstated goals, unconscious goals, which our brains tend to do around like how beautiful it looks or how organized it looks. So I'm not going to worry about that too much. I'm going to mainly try to actually use it for what it's really good for. And look at this amazing little apricot branch right here. I'm going to try to draw that really small and fit it into the beginning part of March. So I'm going to use this zebra pin right here actually. This is a pretty nice brush pin option that I've reviewed in previous videos. This is the blue one. The sizing on these are really confusing, the names that they give them. And I think there's blue is one size, there's a dark gray, and then there's a light gray. And I think the names for them, the big one is called like medium, the medium one is called fine, and the fine one is called ultra fine. I think this is the medium, which is called fine, I believe. So very confusing names. I have reviewed that in another video, so if you want to know more about that, you should check that video out. You can make your explicit goals about you know learn more about my garden by doing this phenology wheel, or do only plants. That would be sort of a creative constraint. Like to give yourself some constraints or limitations can be really, really helpful for a phenology wheel. Like locational constraints, that's going to be my problem. Oops, I already messed up the petals on this. It needs to be, it's really important that there's 5 petals and it has that sort of 5-part symmetry. But I'm not going to worry about that too much. I'm going to let it even overlap a little bit into the previous month. I might just keep the boundaries between the months in pencil and leave myself the flexibility to do all of the drawing in ink, and then have these sort of flexible boundaries between the months, which if you think about it symbolically is accurate, because there's not, nature doesn't have these lines between the months. I'm going to do watercolor on this right away. But first, let me take a sip of decaf coffee. I did have a really cool observation that I made in late February that I want to add here, but I would only be able to add it from memory. So I might do that. I have to make a decision about whether I want to include stuff from memory or not, or if I want to try to do this always from direct observation. I'm a big proponent of doing as much of your drawing and nature journaling from direct observation as possible, especially nature journaling. You can do whatever kind of other drawing from imagination all the time, but I do think observational drawing and direct observational drawing, not from photos, has a lot of benefits, especially for nature journaling. A lot of aspects of nature journaling can only be done from direct observation. You can't do, I wonder, it reminds me of on the same level with a photo. Okay, so let's get this color. White petals, that's always a tricky thing. So I'm going to start actually with the pink color that I see in several spots, and the yellow probably. Also see a little bit of pink up here. Oh, there was a little one budding that I didn't get. I should draw that on the front. Dang it. That wasn't the best. I didn't choose the best angle. Oh, I need to try to also keep a consistency with the pen that I use for drawing this, because I see it's like a really fine I don't always use that really fine one, so okay, that's perfect. I need some words. Okay, now I can get the yellow on the little anthers. Yellow green. And I'm going to use this buff titanium and maybe bloodstone genuine for the branch. Hope that needs to be pink. It's a little bit too dark. Okay, so I have space for at least one more thing in early March and then something else in late March. And I think that's probably realistic for what I can do. And I am going to see if I can just draw from memory something for February. So I'm going to make that executive decision. That drawing from memory or from photos is something that I'm going to do in this diagram. You can make that decision for yourself. I think I have a drawing actually from last year that I'm gonna. So this is an interesting thing that even without having it on my phenology wheel, I don't think I have observations of with the timing, or did I put it on here? Oh, I did put it on here. Okay, so I can see this one that I did last year doesn't have the complete year. You can see this one goes from January 1st until February 25th. And what I realized is it's pointless to use a circle if you're not going through a complete season. Like, it doesn't have any meaning that this is in a circle if it goes from January and ends in February. You know what I'm saying? That's not a circle. There's a missing piece here, and this diagram suggests that those two are related, and they're not. So, but the cool thing is that I do have the observations of the rattlesnake. This is the red diamondback rattlesnake, Crotalus ruber. I think it's considered a threatened or a species of special concern in California because it's only in a very narrow range where there's a lot of urban development. So, a very cool species in Southern California. So I'm just gonna base my drawing sort of off of that one. Oh, actually, I should show that they're underneath the rocks, partially. All right. And let's see, now that that first one's dry, I can add a little bit more color to the first one. Not to mind maroon would be perfect. I think the flower had a little bit of color too. Da-da-da. A little bit of pink. Just pink. Okay, the color's not great, but it's almost more of a symbolic one. So as you can see, even if you have if you're doing this in the sketchbook, the way that I'm suggesting it, so it's part of your nature journal, even if you have really big 9 by 12 paper like mine, the drawings are going to be pretty small. So I don't recommend starting a phenology wheel if you don't like doing small drawings. This is another reason why the phenology wheel can be sort of a trap for perfectionists, because you can get really into this whole like being all perfect about drawing really small stuff, and it becomes extremely time consuming, and that's one of the things that can burn people out, and people start these and don't finish them all the time. So hopefully I'll get past late February, early March and actually fill this. I did the ambitious thing of actually setting a goal and writing it right on my phenology wheel. So we'll see how that works. I still need to figure out what I'm going to do with these spaces here, or if that was just a waste of space. But one thing that definitely wasn't a waste of space was doing these preliminary sketches on a scrap piece of paper and doing some sort of brainstorming. I could still use these for brainstorming more ideas and save this one for my final one. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and comment something down below. I'll post some of the links in the description. If they're Amazon links, I might get a small percentage, such as like 0.01 cent per purchase, but it is one of the ways that I make a living from these free educational videos. And the other one is Patreon. You can support me at patreon.com/MarleyPiper, and you can become part of the community there. It's really fun. We do monthly study sessions, and you can access over 300 Patreon exclusive posts. Plus, we have a traveling art toolkit for some of the tiers, and even coaching for some of the tiers. So consider supporting me on there. This is season 5 of the Nature Journal show. See you next time. Bye.